And away we go.
And we are back. We just have, this is QT.
Well, this is Breakfast with Al and Steve.
Yeah, breakfast. Brunch with Al and Steve and Al. Episode 33, part 1. And we just did simple stuff. I did gas station chicken sandwich, and Steve did.
This is from HEB, and I'm gonna tell you what. This is a torta, right, with some turkey and Munster cheese and some other stuff on there, and I added some hot sauce. But the only thing that's really a torta about this is the bread. Nothing else is really like a torta you get at a Mexican restaurant. But it's really decent actually for a sandwich bought at a grocery store. I'm pretty impressed by it, to tell you honestly.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we noticed that we kind of took a hiatus, and then we had one episode, and then we still had a hard time getting back to doing these. And we realized that, and I don't know if it's the economy or stuff with politics, or in my case, I know that it's directly because I went back to work after basically not having a regular job for 3 years. But whatever it is, it's the end result is that we just feel fucking exhausted. And like the way I put it is I'm sort of aware of a lot of the big stories going on, but I'm not as aware, and I don't feel like I give a damn as much. And so it's harder to make these videos if there's a part of me that just doesn't care as much.
Right, and I think the whole point of this is to say like how problematic that actually is, because this is kind of how they engineer the system to work.
Yeah.
To completely exhaust people, to get them to the point where they don't care anymore because psychologically they're exhausted. I don't know what other word to use, but when you're working, when you have to deal with work to survive and make money and all these other things, right? And under the system, and then you got a child and a kid, and you got things that you have to take care of, and blah 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 blah, right? And then you're already kind of stressed out, right? This all it puts a toll on your nervous system.
Yeah.
Then you watch the news, right? Now this is another toll. Like you all day long. Now you're in traffic too, right?
Right.
Twice a day.
Right.
So you got the traffic. You go to work. You get this stress, right? It's competitive. You got your boss in your ear the whole day. You got this bullshit happening, right? And then, and I'm not talking specifically, so maybe.
Yeah, no, but just in general.
As
an example, not
as an example for everybody, you get shit going on at work. It's stressful for everybody, even your boss. It's stressful for him too, I'm sure, or her. But everybody got stress at work. So you got that, right? And then you try to turn on the news and try to figure out what's going on there. And once again, for most people. It's like I don't even want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore because it's already an overload.
Well, and I was doing this before, but what I found myself doing even more is I'm shutting off the news, not because of because it's the radio or because it's TV or because of whatever, but because if it has anything to do with our current administration, it's just flat out. It's so far beyond just propaganda. It's just in your face. Lying about whatever the story is, and
all face lies.
Well, and it's like, how do you even begin to have a discussion with another person when the upfront description of what's going on isn't even close to the truth?
Well, yeah, this is the thing. It's gotten so absurd. The reality of this has gotten so incredibly insane that any reasonable person is now trying to navigate a reality that is so dysfunctional that their brain can't process it. And then there's this group of people that are wrapped up in the delusion, right? So that's what makes it so double the insanity, because first you have to absorb it and then come to terms with it and radically accept that bullshit. But then you have to deal with the people, then you have to look at the people who are wrapped up in it and just try to wrap your head around that on top of it. It's like, oh my God, it's like double fucking trouble in your brain. And I think one thing, maybe I wasn't going to be part of this discussion, I just thought of it though. Did you see the bullshit on the fucking front lawn of the White House?
Yeah, no, I caught just enough of it to know exactly what
they
you're
had
talking about.
an MMA fight and motorcycles. And this fucking dude, this is idiocracy
Yep.
It made live.
Yep.
I mean, it literally is.
Oh, and then afterward, somebody was showing how it just tore up that grass and everything.
Right.
Like it's just nobody thought twice about something that never should have happened. You know what I mean?
And what kind of meatheads would watch that shit? It's so dumb.
I don't know anybody who watched more than about 5 minutes of it, but
it's for 14-year-old boys.
it's not even redneck. It's straight up trailer trash, is how somebody put it. You know, like,
right. It's straight up fucking 14-year-old boys who grew up in a trailer park.
Right.
It's so bad. And it's become so dysfunctional. Somebody took clips from Idiocracy, right? And juxtaposed it with what was going on with Trump. You couldn't hardly tell the difference.
Right.
What was the movie and what was real? Because it almost looked like the same goddamn fucking thing. That's the fucking world we're living in right now that we have to fucking work, navigate through. So when you turn on the news and you hear Trump this, Trump that, it's like, I don't care what he says. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. Nothing he says is fucking real. It's all bullshit. I don't know what I can do to fucking make this situation any better. It makes people just want to, like you said.
Well, and then unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, we have just enough access to things that I'm peeling away the layers of things that are going on with the left and going, oh fuck, I liked Obama. Why the fuck did he just do that? Shit like that.
Yeah.
Or things where it's like, yeah, I side with these guys, but they got a lot bigger flaws than I ever realized.
Well, look, I'm gonna bring up one more thing and try to wrap this up real quick.
Okay.
We're already six. I wanted to make this like 10 minutes, so I'm gonna bring in one more thing. We're gonna wrap this up. We're probably gonna do one or two more of these today, and I think that's all we got.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
So I watched this movie yesterday, West Indies, and it was a movie based off the musical, right? And if you're not familiar with it, it's about the slave trade. It was about the French and the Dutch and who else? The English but we're more up in the northern Caribbean and in the Americas, but and then I think those were the main characters, and the Spaniards. They had some input in some of the Espanol and all those other places. But anyways, so it was talking about the slave trade and how the genocide and then the slavery and then the exploitation of labor. And then the transition into capitalism, and then the reverse exportation of labor from the Indies, because the population started to increase back to Paris and Europe because of the labor strikes and things like that, to bring in cheap labor back over, right? And how that capitalism was just simply slavery under another name, right? It was just wage slavery, and they suffered the same indignities that they did on the islands back in the Americas. So, when we're talking about Democrats, and this is why I'm going to tie this into Democrats. There is, and there was the different factions, the layers of the, and the different groups, and how they approach this whole thing, this machinery of the bourgeois, the capitalists, right? At first the slave owners, then the capitalists, who were nothing more than slave owners under a different name, right? So, and then you had the ones who assimilated and joined, and then you had also some that were kind of what would be considered Democrats, and then you had the subversives, the true left, right? True left. And when they brought them back over to France, right, then you had ones that were like, they were part of the left, but they were like some of these guys in America, like the unions and stuff, that were like, yeah, but they're coming over here taking our jobs. But then there was the real leftists that were like, no, they're brothers in arms with us against the proletariat, right? Gotcha. Because they try to use that bridge of racial divide to separate the masses, right? So the reason I bring this up is because the Democrats here in America are that group of assimilators, right? Of the assimilators in the capitalist system. They are still look. Even within the Democrats, right? What is the litmus test generally for even being able to run for any office outside of like state or local government? You have to be Christian, and you have to be a capitalist, and you have to declare that. Have you ever heard a senator or maybe there's one or two Democrats, but have you ever seen anybody run for president that never declared being Christian of some sort, Catholic or Protestant,
right,
or didn't say they were capitalist? They all said they were capitalist,
pretty much,
and they all said they were Christians.
Well, I mean, Well, Bernie Sanders is Jewish, but
he didn't run.
Oh, but he didn't. Okay,
Well, I mean, he did as a Democrat, but they kicked him out.
Yeah,
you get my point.
I get your point.
That's the litmus test. You have to be a capitalist and you have to be a Christian under this umbrella of this exploitative machinery.
Well, no, but a good example that proves your point is Mamdani, who's not Christian, and he gets harassed for not being a Christian, and yet they can't actually point to anything that he's done that feels non-Christian apart from saying he's not Christian. You know what I mean? Like, what's
exactly.
the fact? Look, it's such.
And then he admits to being a socialist too, or a social democrat,
democratic socialist. Yes,
which is fine. There's nothing illegal in America about being a socialist or a communist, as long as you're democratic about it, right?
Right.
We live in a democracy, allegedly, which we never had.
Well,
never
increasingly less so, maybe, but yes.
Ever since the beginning, we've talked about this a million times. I'll repeat it again if you never heard it. 5 to 10% voted early on, and then women, and then. Then there was the Emancipation Proclamation, and then but then there was Jim Crow, and then there was that, and but then the women got the right to vote. So periodically we've been kind of advancing, but then they started gerrymandering, and then they started like voter suppression and all these other things to get away with making it less and less democratic and more fascist. But what has been since the beginning, oligarchical fascism, the new titans of industry oligarchs, rather than the monarchs of old. In Europe, which broke apart after World War I and II, completely devastated that whole system into the capitalist system of a new breed of monarchs. So, so in America, the left is the right in any other country of Europe. The American left is the right wing of Europe. There is no left wing in America. It doesn't exist. There are some Democrats, I guess you could say, are progressive. AOC, Bernie.
Yeah, but
you have.
I guess what I could be wrong, but the hopeful part of me, unfortunately, it doesn't seem to get us anywhere. But it feels like the Democratic voting bloc is a lot more left than the actual Democrats in office.
Yes, and if they would actually go to the left, they would start winning more often. I believe.
Right.
It would take these people who won't be pragmatic and vote for Democrats just to stop the bleeding and hopefully get a conversation started to get some true left-leaning progressives into business there. Otherwise, you're talking about, and this was also part of this movie I was watching. There was the group that just basically said, you cannot trust any of these people. Do not join them. Do not try to negotiate with them. They were militant leftists.
Yeah.
We have nothing like that in America. They don't exist. The only militants look, in the 1930s, and this is, I'm trying to, look, we almost spoke German as our official language back when America started.
Yeah.
A good portion of this country was German speaking.
Including around here in Texas. You just look at the places that are still largely German speaking.
So in the 1930s, there was a rally in New York City. Did you see a communist rally anywhere? No. What did they have in 1930? Was it 8 right in Times Square for 2 days straight?
The Nazis?
The Nazis.
Yeah.
Rally. So, and all of the industrialists were backing the fascists, right? This country, the fascists based their system of governance off of America. And it was actually an art movement early on. It was kind of weird. And then, that dude and Mussolini was actually, his parents were socialists, but then he was just we talked about all this. He was just an opportunist and a lunatic, and they came up with this fascism. But we are far more fascist than we've ever been democratic. And at a small period of time, we were democratic socialist for roughly from the early 1930s into the 70s, and there was a boom in the middle class for white people. And when it was extended to the black people, then it was dismantled due to racism and bigotry and misogyny. So when women were able to get into the big mix and minorities were able to get into mix, that was the tool that was used by the fascists of this country, which have always been around. And anybody who calls themselves a conservative and say they're a fiscal conservative, right, has no idea what they're talking about, because the fiscal and the social policies are not separate. I'm a fiscal conservative. Well, then you voted against yourself for 30, 50 fucking years because everything you did that you thought was going to help you hurt you, unless you're a billionaire today. or a multi-millionaire. I'm not talking 10 million or 20. I'm talking like 500
like
million.
over 100 million.
You did not get helped by this fucking trickle down bullshit. You got burned. The 99% of the population, 98% of the population got absolutely fucking devastated. The baby boomers were the last ones to reap the benefits of that democratic socialism and that expansion of socialism throughout those decades, and those high tax rates and those regulations. And the regulations also involved with the neutrality of media and not allowing companies like Fox, which started in the 80s when they got rid of that, and they could just go on TV and just blatantly lie all day long. And that's all they do. That's all they do. You're on here and you watch Fox, you're a fucking moron. They lie all day long. That's all they do. They're, I don't know what else. We're probably
that pretty much sums it up. But just like everything you mentioned, just over the last year or two, it's ramped up. Like you thought consolidation was bad before. There almost are. I mean, we used to say there are like
talk
three
about
or
the
four.
next one. We'll talk about the trillionaire.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about Musk being a
Right.
trillionaire and a couple other things, and that'll probably be it.
Okay.
I'm fried. I'm done with this shit. Yeah.